Okay. Here. Welcome TikTok fans, Facebook, BH Live, YouTube. Good to see you guys. Started in a minute. Everybody join. Okay, everybody's here. B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach, shiur Torah, bruchim habayim. We're back here on our Wednesday night, Stump the Rabbi, where after some divrei Torah, you guys will then ask some questions and BeEzrat HaShem HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us some answers. Tonight's shiur is going to be for the Refuah Shlema and Hatzlacha Rabba for Rabbi Efraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Sarah bat Levana, Avimori, David ben Esriah, Imimoti Doris bat Zora, and all of Am Yisrael and all the righteous Noahides that continue to support the organization by donating and helping us do all the amazing things that the organization is doing. Anyone that took advantage of the opportunity we mentioned last night by going to the Kiruv store did a wise thing, because we literally had a massive amount of orders, Baruch Hashem, tonight in the last 24 hours. Lots of people ordered lots of things, and Baruch Hashem, we also added a few products that we ran out of stock of, like my books and some CDs. I know some of you guys still like CDs and DVDs. We have those on the Kiruv store right now that you can order. And Baruch Hashem, lots of people love the book against Manis Friedman, and also the Asher Yitzar posters and the USB. All this stuff, Baruch Hashem, is a thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that sends us people that are willing to support, willing to donate, so we could actually give all this stuff out for free, Baruch Hashem, despite the fact that it literally costs millions. Tonight, Rabotai Yekarim, we're going to delve into Parashat Matot, even though I'm well aware that it's Parashat Matot and Mas'eh this week, because we're a relatively shorter shiur, because you have the questions after. I wanted to really delve into a couple of topics tonight that will put some things into perspective. Now, the Torah tells us in many places about knowing Hashem. Of course, everyone is aware of believing in Hashem, but there are a couple of places in the Torah where Moshe Rabbeinu tells us to cleave to Hashem, to cleave to God. Parashat Matot begins with the matters of vows, taking a vow. And then after that, we go into the war. But it's not just any war. This is the war against the enemies of God. It's a vengeance against the enemies of God. Tonight we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the holy words of the sages inside the oral Torah, in order to understand the meaning of cleaving to God and how it connects to the wars of God. Parashat Matot starts off by telling us that if you're going to take a vow, if you're going to make a vow, you have to think twice. Because first and foremost, a Jew has to know, and really every person must know, that being honest is not necessarily just a good quality. It's an absolute necessity if you want to have a relationship with Hashem that's a positive one. Everything that comes out of his mouth, he shall do. But to make a vow and say that you're going to do something, you're committed to it, and you're even willing to swear, perhaps in the name of God, perhaps just simply saying the word neder. And the Torah tells us that one of the biggest crimes that a person can make is by making a vow in the name of God and not fulfilling it. So much so that the Gemara says that a person that makes a vow and does not fulfill it, his wife will die. So this is not just a something that maybe the person will get punished for in the next world, and then you have to learn about the next world. No, this is something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu simply says, don't do it unless you know what you're doing. Because the risks are extraordinary. Now, before we go into the details of how does this apply to the everyday person that doesn't think that they make vows. They never even said the word neder. But yet the parasha was written for all of us. It wasn't written just for me. It wasn't written just for a few of you. If you're watching this, that means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says it relates to you too. Even if you get scared right now and turn off the video, it still relates to you. As I told a young, ignorant kid today that started a conversation by telling me he has some questions about the cash advance business. And I was happily willing to provide him all the information. The problem is he wasn't willing to learn. He was just simply telling me all types of ignorant statements of how he believes in his heart that I'm wrong and this is not the will of God. And I provided him the information. He says, yeah, but this information came from you, so I can't rely on it. I said, well, I didn't write the Rambam. I didn't write the rest of the poskim that I mentioned in the book. He said, yeah, but I can interpret the Torah any way that I want also. So I guess you don't really understand how Torah works or how halacha works. You're more comfortable maybe with videos. No, I just think that if it's a video, if it's anything, I'm not going to listen. Okay, so what do you want from me exactly? And he just continued spewing all types of nonsense. And I told him, at least you now know that you were informed. You choose to ignore the information. Don't cry when God punishes you in the future. And then he tells me something not really surprising, but surprising. No, what are you talking about? How could you say such a thing? God doesn't punish anyone. He loves everybody. I said, well, once you start learning Torah, even though you claim to be a religious Jew, once you start learning Torah, you'll actually understand that not only does God punish, but it's one of our 13 principles of faith. There he was dumbfounded. He never heard of such a thing that God punishes. Many times people simply interpret things the way they want to. And needless to say, this also happens with vows. As Rav Nisim again, alav hashalom, used to say in his lectures time and time again, only fools make vows. Why? Because it shows you don't know what you're talking about if you're making a vow. In Parashat Matot in Midrash Rabbah, the sages tell us who is allowed to make a vow. Can anyone make a vow? I mean, you have this world where people say, we have freedom of speech. Does that mean you're allowed to say anything? Perhaps according to the law of the land, but the law of heaven says no. In fact, the Midrash Rabbah in Parashat Matot says, even if you are swearing truthfully, you're not permitted to swear by my name, meaning by the name of Hashem, unless you possess all of the following qualities. Before we go into the qualities, already HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us you have to be ashamed to use God's name to swear for trivial matters like monetary disputes, and therefore being permitted to take an oath with God's name, a person has to have an exalted character, which the Midrash is going to tell us, what does that actually mean, exalted character? Does he just have to be a really nice guy, a really nice lady? She bakes challah for the neighbors once a month. First off, the sages are simply warning us, if you take vows lightly, if you take your words that come out of your mouth lightly, it's only a matter of time before you're going to make a sin that you're going to regret the day you were born for. So the sages teach us, even if you're swearing about something truthfully, you're only allowed to do it if you possess the following qualities. With the verse in Deuteronomy chapter 10 verse 20 says, Hashem your God shall you fear, him shall you serve, and to him shall you cleave, and in his name shall you swear. But the verse is describing the qualities that a person must possess in order to swear using God's name. First off, starting off with Hashem your God you shall fear. In order to teach us, says the Midrash, that the only ones that are permitted to swear are ones that have characters that fear God. But not just any fear. Say, oh yeah, I'm afraid of going again. No. It's not the one we're talking about. Rather, they have to be like Avraham, Job, and Yosef. As it says, Avraham Avinu, in the book of Genesis, chapter 22, verse 12. For now I know that you are a God-fearing man. When it comes to Job, in the book of Job, chapter 1, verse 8, a wholesome and upright man who fears God. Or Yosef a tzaddik. Yosef, from whom it's written, I fear God, he told Paro. He told his brothers. This is why Hashem said, Hashem, your God, you shall fear. Meaning that if you don't have fear of heaven, already vows are a problem for you. Further, the Midrash says, how do you actually see if somebody has fear of God? It means that you free yourself from mundane matters in order to study Torah and engage in the performance of mitzvot, and you have no other occupation. In so many words, you're an avrech. You're not working on Wall Street. You're not working on Main Street. Your whole life, you're dedicating to serving Hashem. Because even when you're involved in worldly matters that you need to, you go to the store, you do a deal in order to pay the bills, whatever it is, you're only doing that in order to preserve your strength so you can serve Hashem better. Everything is connected to Hashem. That's a sign you have fear of God. This quality of fear. So already we see that when the young people call me or send me messages, tell me, Rabbi, how can I nullify my vow? Who told you to make a vow? No, I made a vow that I wasn't going to make this thing anymore, and then I really want to do it now. The best part is when people tell me, I made a vow that I'm not going to make this sin, but I made it, or I want to make it. Habibi, the vow was not valid to begin with. You've already committed to Hashem not to make sins at Mount Sinai. But then sometimes people think that they could elevate themselves spiritually by saying that they vow to do such and such. And it's a very foolish thing to do. Because when you can't do it, you have a serious problem. Even more so when you vow under distress. Somebody's sick, you have a major financial loss, and somebody says, listen, the person says, I'll make a vow that if Hashem saves me here, I'll do such and such. And then they want to break it. There's no such thing as breaking such a vow. But what does it mean to cleave to Hashem? Because the verse said, that taught us about what qualities we have to have when we make these vows. We have to fear God. That's fine. We understood it now. But we also have to cleave unto Him. And the sages ask, can you possibly cleave to the divine presence? Is it not already stated in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 24? For Hashem your God is a consuming fire. How can you cleave on to consuming fire? Rather, it's to teach you that anyone who gives his daughter in marriage to a Torah scholar, or he himself studies Torah and becomes a Torah scholar, or he gives his daughter to a Torah scholar that learns the Torah, learns the Mishnah, but if he's not a Torah scholar, and he doesn't have a daughter to give to a Torah scholar, then he will engage in business on behalf of the scholar in order to give him the profits. Or he would just simply give him out of his own dealings. That's what it means to cleave to Hashem. In so many words, to cleave to Hashem, Rabotai, is to cleave to Talmidei Chachamim by helping them learn more Torah, publicize more Torah, because they are cleaving to Hashem. So you are indirectly doing the same thing. Because a person that's constantly engaged in Torah is clinging himself to the Shekhinah. And the Midrash is telling us that by you enabling that person to cleave to Hashem, because you're eliminating his financial pressure, you are clinging to Hashem. Now, what happened to people that took vows lightly? Not took vows lightly like they made a vow and didn't fulfill it, but rather they did not fit the character. They didn't fit the character of someone that fears God. The Midrash says it occurred to King Yanai, that at one point had 2,000 cities, all of which ended up being destroyed due to truthful vows. How? A person would say to his friend, I swear that I shall go and eat such and such food in such and such place, and drink such and such beverage at such and such place. And even though they would go and fulfill that oath, nonetheless, 2,000 cities were all destroyed. And the Midrash concludes and says, if such befalls a person who swears truthfully, how much more so regarding one that swears falsely. Now, before we go into the part of the war, we have to see how does this relate to a person that does not take a vow. Many times people, they have excitement. They have excitement and they watch a shiur Torah and they want to donate. Rabbi, you're Mashiach. Rabbi, you saved my life. Okay, great. Listen, I promise this year I'm going to donate X amount of money. Okay, fine. BeEzrat HaShem, you fulfill it. Only problem is if you don't fulfill it, you're bringing tragedy on yourself. Or people buy aliyot at the Beit Knesset during the high holidays. Or they say to the organization, listen, give me the blessing and I'll pay for the donation soon, throughout this year. And they don't. They don't realize they just made a vow. You don't need to say the word neder in order to make a vow. And I can tell you from things I saw with my own eyes, how literally a person starts off by making a decision to do something good because they want Hashem to bless them with more parnasah. When they did not fulfill their end, instead of bringing themselves blessings, they brought themselves disaster. In one case, a person made a vow, didn't say the word vow, but said, Rabbi, I'm going to donate X amount of money this year. No problem. He didn't. 8 months later, Rabbi, I need you to pray for me. My business is not working. What do you mean? You were doing okay in the beginning. So much so that you were already committing to giving X amount. Yeah, I was doing good in the beginning, but now it's not good. Oh, so Hashem did start blessing you, but you did not fulfill your vow. You delayed it. Hashem started taking the blessing. Another case, person decided that he wants to donate, but in payments. No problem. But as you know, the Satan also has payments. So the Satan says, listen, why don't you pay for a vacation? And why don't you pay for tuition? And why don't you pay for this investment business? And why don't you pay for, you have to invest in your company, and you have to start another company. So instead of making the payments that they were supposed to make for the commitment, the so-called vow, the donation, they made payments for other things. So they ran out of money. But they figured they're going to make money again. But to their dismay, Hashem did not continue the blessing when he saw that they're liars. So literally, years pass and the person never recovered. Instead of getting that blessing to continue, he started looking for a hole to come out of, just to be able to peek in. And the worst case that I've seen, and I've seen some bad ones, is a person started doing good. Hashem blessed this person, literally made their business grow from them making a couple of $100,000 to making over $4 million in a matter of 1 year, 1.5 years. Something that even in their wildest dreams they didn't think was possible. And when they were getting the blessing, they said, listen, Rabbi, as soon as I make this amount of money, we're going to buy the building. We're going to build a yeshiva. Okay. I'm in. BeEzrat HaShem, I'll pray for you every day. Well, guess what? They made the money. But instead of doing what they said, they decided to become a gvir, to start distributing to everywhere else. Even buying a building for somebody else, because they were more convincing and more local and more on their head and more of conniving and kiss up. And even though it's great, there's more Torah in the world, theoretically speaking, you realize that it wasn't the will of Hashem when shortly thereafter, faster than the amount of time that it took them to make the $4 million, they lost all of it. The business collapsed 90%. They went back to the beginning. One of the masters of Chassidut had somebody come to him one time, a young man, and ask him for a blessing for Parnassah. And he said, you're gonna be blessed with Parnassah. Just make sure that you continue to donate, give maaser. When I send you different messengers because there's a need, make sure you answer. Sure, Rabbi. Of course. If I become wealthy, I'm going to help more. Well, the blessing was fulfilled. Within a short period of time, the young man started succeeding more and more by the day. And he would send donations. And the money continued increasing. And it became a little more difficult for him to donate the larger amount of money. But he tried more and more and more. And he became very wealthy. And one day, the rabbi sent him a messenger that there's a very big need. And he needs help. He needs his donation. He told him the amount that he needs. When the now rich businessman looked at it, said, what? Who this rabbi thinks he is? He's just sending me people. He just thinks I'm just going to give. Come on. Enough is enough. I gave a lot already. The Chassid came to the rabbi and said, listen, Rabbi, I don't know how to tell you, but he didn't speak so well. He didn't speak so well. He didn't want to give. The rabbi said, oh? He didn't want to give? Okay. Just let him know that if he doesn't want to give, we'll have to find somebody that will. Go all the way back to him to tell, yes. Chassid goes back. In those days, traveling from city to city is not so simple. Not like today, you can get on a plane, on a train, in a car. In a short period of time, you're in a different city. Chassid comes back to the businessman. Said, just wanted to let you know. Again you? I told you no. No, I'm not asking for more. I told the rabbi, and the rabbi said, okay, you don't want to give. Fine, we'll just have to find somebody else that will. Yeah, that's what you came for, to tell me that? Yes. Yeah, obviously. Sure, go. Okay, take care. It wasn't too long before this businessman started making deals where one deal after another started going sour. People were cheating him. Money was being lost. Boats sinking in the ocean. And literally within a short period of time, he lost all of his money. Everything. To the point where he literally became barely able to survive himself. His empire collapsed. Tens of millions of dollars gone. At that point, he realized, he remembered, oh, that's what the rabbi meant when he sent the messenger. He said, I'll have to find somebody else that will. I lost the blessing. Oy, to me, let me go back to the rabbi. Of course, he goes back on his four, crawling to the rabbi. Oh, rabbi, please, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. The rabbi says, no problem. I already told you. If you don't want to give, we'll just have to find somebody that will. The guy says, yeah, why? I know, I understand. What does that mean, Rabbi? And the rabbi tells him, listen, When my neshama came down to earth, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told me, you're going to have a blessing of enormous parnasah. But it's going to distract you in serving me. So I said to Hashem, Hashem, I don't want it. Can I give it to somebody? He said, of course. You can give it to somebody. So all this time I was looking for somebody to give the blessing that I had. So when you came to me years ago asking for a blessing, I said, oh, perfect. Somebody wants parnasah. Let me give you this blessing of parnasah. And that's why you became very wealthy. It wasn't your blessing. It was what Hashem told me I'm going to get. So I gave it to you. Because I didn't want to be distracted serving Hashem. And as long as you kept giving, I said, no problem, you're a good partner to have. I do what's necessary, you do what's necessary. But the moment you didn't want to do your part, I said, oh, if you don't want to do your part with this money, then we'll have to find somebody else to give it to get the money from. Meaning, I took back the blessing. Oh, Rabbi, I'm sorry. I promise I won't do it again. Please, Rabbi, bless me. I'm sorry. I already gave it to somebody else. What a lot of people don't realize is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will sometimes give you a blessing, and all of a sudden you go from being a average Joe to having a lot of success. And you think it's because you're smart, or you had good timing, or you had good mazal, or whatever other reason you think you made all that money. What you don't realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you a responsibility. I gave you all of this so you can publicize more Torah. No, not so you can buy another 5 houses. Not so you can, have a savings for retirement you may never see. Funniest thing is when people tell me, listen, I'm saving for my retirement. How old are you? 55, 60? No, I'm only 25, 30 years old. You're saving for retirement? Who promised you retirement? But people are deluding themselves, and they don't realize that they have an opportunity of a lifetime. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives them a blessing, which means he gives them a responsibility. And if they lose it, if they lose that blessing, it's very, very hard to get it back. In some cases, impossible. If you are looking for blessings, you have to cleave to Hashem. You want to have more parnasah so you can do more good? That means you need to do as much good with what you have now. Invest as much as you can into Kiruv, into Torah now. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu can say, oh, he's a good partner. She's a good partner. I see she's continuously investing at least 10 or 20% of our money, of our income, into the right places, into Torah. So if she likes to do this, she wants to be my partner, I'll give her more. Now she's able to, instead of affording $500 a month, all of a sudden she can afford $1,000 a month, and $2,000 a month, and $5,000 a month. And as long as you continue doing what the partnership is supposed to be, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will just simply give you endless amount. Liya kesef v'liya zahav neum Hashem tzavaot. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, all the money is mine. But when a person forsakes that partnership, then what ends up happening is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, oh, you don't want to be my partner anymore? Fine, I'll have to give it to somebody else. Sometimes he'll leave them with the money, but no longer with the blessing, meaning they won't be able to enjoy the money anymore. Sometimes he'll take the blessing and the money. Now, when a person invests into the Torah, that means that they are cleaving to Hashem. The more you cleave, the more the blessing. And people sometimes say, yeah, well, listen, I did some things and then it didn't work. Yeah, what did you do? For 6 months, for a year? What do you think Hashem works on your schedule? Trust me. The Torah promised, that means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises that He'll give it to you. You just have to continue. And usually you find out that those that didn't get the blessing, it's because they didn't really do it. They didn't do it for long enough. They gave up too early. Or they did some things that ruined the blessings. Whether it be wasting seed, chilul Shabbat, dishonest business, and so on. Now, what does that have to do with the next part of Parashat Matot, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Am Yisrael there's a new commandment, a timely commandment, a commandment to go to war. It says in chapter 31, Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, take vengeance for the children of Israel against the Midianites. Afterwards, you will be gathered unto your people. So here we see that Hashem is commanding Moshe to go take vengeance against the Midianites because of what they did to Am Yisrael. But this will be the last war that Moshe Rabbeinu fights, because after that he'll die. Why does the Torah have to remind us that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to die after this war? In order to show us how much Moshe Rabbeinu followed the word of Hashem, to the extent where the Midrash says, since the Torah wrote that after the war Moshe will die, that means that Moshe could have decided to never die, or to delay his death for another 20, 30, 50, 100 years, because the Torah already concluded only after this war will you die. And Moshe could have said, okay, well, you didn't tell me I have to go to war right now, or next week, or next year. Just like Akedat Yitzchak with Avraham Avinu. Hashem didn't tell Avraham, go and circumcise your son tomorrow. But yet he told him to bring your son as a sacrifice tomorrow. But yet, Avraham, it said that he woke up baboker. He woke up early in the morning. The next morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, he woke up already taking his son to go bring him as a sacrifice. This is the way of tzaddikim. And the Midrash says, Moshe Rabbeinu said to himself, shall Israel's vengeance be delayed just so I can live a little longer? Certainly not. And therefore Moshe spoke to the people saying, are men among yourselves for a legion? Meaning, we're going to war right now. No time wasted. But the war that Hashem said was a vengeance against Midian, a vengeance for the children of Israel. But when Moshe Rabbeinu tells the people, as the Midrash Parashat Matot says, Moshe said, this is Hashem's vengeance against Midian. Why is it Hashem's vengeance? Why are you changing the words? Hashem said, take vengeance for the children of Israel, what they did to you. They didn't do anything to me. They did to you. Moshe says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono shel Olam, if we were uncircumcised people, idol worshippers, or heretics that denied the validity of the Torah and the mitzvot, then the Midianites would have not hated us. But the only reason why they persecute us is because of the Torah, is because of the mitzvot. The mitzvot that you gave, the Torah that you gave, and therefore this vengeance is actually your vengeance. And Moshe says to inflict Hashem's vengeance against Midian. Moshe goes to war with Am Yisrael against Midian. But Rabotai Karim, this is not a simple war. Why is it not a simple war? Because Bilam is there. Bilam is there to collect his money for being responsible for the death of 24,000 Jews after they fell for the trap of immorality. Moshe says to Pinchas, Pinchas, you started this mitzvah by killing Zimri and Cosby and stopping the plague. You now have to be the one that leads this war. In the past, with the war against Amalek, Moshe Rabbeinu designated Yoshua ben Nun to lead the war. But this war, if you see from the verses, Pinchas is the one. Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen is the one that leads the war. Why? Why is it Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen? You started this mitzvah, you have to complete this mitzvah. And I'm going to tell you a few things. One, you're going to go to this war with the entire garments of the Kohen Gadol. You're Kohen Gadol, you have to wear everything. Not for show, you're going to need it. Because over there, says the Midrash, we're aware that this Rasha, this villain, Bilam, who practices sorcery, he's going to fly in the air. And the way to bring him down is by showing him the tzitz, the head plate of the Kohen Gadol, that says Kodesh LaHashem. Once he falls down, then you kill him. So Am Yisrael goes and attacks Midian. And at that time, Bilam is there, and actually 5 kings are there. As soon as Bilam sees that this is happening, he starts performing sorcery. And the kings were like, yeah, we're going to do it too with you. They start doing sorcery. But they realize that this is not going to work unless you up the game. So as my dear sons, Ovadia and Yosef, the Chachamim, told me, they found in one of their books, that brought one of the Midrashim, Bilam not only flew in the air, because he knew that Am Yisrael also has Kedusha. They could also fly in the air. So Bilam opened the sky, put the 5 kings in there, and also himself went into the sky and then closed the sky. For those that have watched movies, this is like going to a different dimension. To his dismay, all the tum'ah that he had that gave him extraordinary abilities and powers is nothing in comparison to the Kedusha of Am Yisrael. So Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen also flew in the air with the tzitz and opened the heavens, brought all of them out of where they were hiding, and killed every single one of them with the sword. And the Torah tells us it's very important to know that Pinchas killed Bilam with the sword, killed the kings with the sword. Why? Why do we need to know that he killed them with the sword? We don't know how they killed Og and Sichon and a lot of other Reshaim that went against Am Yisrael. But here the Torah specifies that in verse number 8, in chapter 31, Vet Bilam ben Beor argu b'charev, that Bilam ben Beor, the son of Beor, they slew with the sword. Why do we need to know that he killed him with the sword? Rashi says on the spot, one of the Kabbalistic teachings, which is why the Arizal says, if you look at Rashi's commentary, you'll find a lot of Kabbalah in there also. He says, the sages teach us that just like Yaakov Avinu was blessed by Yitzchak, so was Esav. Yaakov was blessed to have a holy mouth, a mouth of prayer, a mouth of prophecy, a mouth that can do extraordinary things, literally change nature. And Esav was blessed to be the most powerful with the sword. Bilam knew this. And he says, in order to defeat Yaakov, it's not enough to use the sword. You got to use the mouth. And that's why Bilam came to curse him. That's why Balak hired Bilam. Because they knew that the only way to defeat Am Yisrael is with the mouth. Just like they have Moshe Rabbeinu that prophesies, that teaches Torah, that prays, that gives blessings. Let's do the opposite. So they brought Bilam. So Bilam tried to destroy Am Yisrael with the mouth. And because of that, the way to destroy Bilam had to have been with his tool, which is the sword. Bilam tried to use the blessing of Yaakov to kill Yaakov, to kill Am Yisrael. The way to destroy Bilam, who was blessed with the tools of Esav, is with the tools of Esav, is with the sword. We see here, Rabotai, that the war was not like the wars today that the Israeli lefty liberal government fights, where they're scared to use weapons. So much so that literally, even in the news, they are telling them that having soldiers walk around with guns is a waste when they're not allowed to use the guns, because the one time a soldier used the gun against a terrorist who killed somebody, they arrested the soldier, the Israeli soldier, and put him in jail for a few years. One Talmid Chacham says maybe they want to give them water guns, but make sure to give them also a towel so people don't get too wet. And make sure the water is not too hot, so people don't get burned by the water. You see how the wars are? They're so scared. They send notices to the enemy. We're about to bomb you. Don't stay here. They're afraid of what the media says. So why do you let the media into a battle zone? Why do you let the media into a battle zone if you're scared of what they're going to say? Either way, they're going to go against you. If the war that's mentioned in this parasha happened today, Rabotai, no one would say anything. Why? Because you see, this is a nation that's not following the laws of lefty liberalism, modernization. Look at what this war is. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells them, kill everybody. Moshe Rabbeinu tells them, no mercy. The only ones to leave are women that are specific types of women and children. When Am Yisrael goes to war, destroys the enemy, but then brings back all the women and children, Moshe Rabbeinu gets angry at them. What are you doing? How could you bring all these women? Don't you understand that these are the women that brought the plague? How so? What did Hashem bring the plague for? Because Midian sent their women to cause the Jewish people to sin with them. And therefore, this war of vengeance was not a vengeance that they stole money from us. Was not a vengeance because they stole a piece of land from us. It's not a vengeance because of honor. No. They caused us to separate ourselves even momentarily from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to violate His law. There's no one worse than that. As Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, Gadol HaMachtiyo min ha'orgo, someone that causes people to sin is worse than a murderer. So now you're bringing me the women that cause us to sin. What do you think Am Yisrael did? This is after the war. All the men gone. In the world today, tell you, no, okay, well, the war is done. That's it. Just, leave the women alone, right? This is the war that HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded. Not the war that Netanyahu commanded, or Donald Trump. Every single one of those women that caused the Jewish people to sin had to be removed from the world. Now you would think, okay, so maybe it was 5, 10, 20 women. Rabotai, the only ones that were allowed to remain were the ones that did not cause to sin, meaning they were never been with a man, never been married, no boyfriend, girlfriend. How many were left? After destroying all the men and all of the women that caused the sin, which were thousands, tens of thousands, still after that, what was left, which was a minority, chapter 31, verse 15. And human beings, the women who had not known lying with the male, all the souls, 32,000. 32,000 left became the slaves. In the world today, slave is like a vulgar word. But in the world of the Torah, whatever it says in the Torah is the word of Hashem. Now, what did Moshe Rabbeinu do after we removed the enemy, the male enemy, the female enemy? We took vengeance against all the people that caused us to sin without mercy, without sending them little notices to hide. What was next? HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, give half to those soldiers that went and fought, the other half to those who didn't fight. Why didn't they fight? What, they didn't feel like fighting? No. Elef lamate, elef lamate. In order to win the war, for every 1,000 soldiers that had to be righteous, every 1,000 soldiers that went to war, there had to be 1,000 that learned Torah. Why? Because those that are learning Torah are giving power to the one that has the gun. Without the guy that's learning Torah, the guy with the gun has to use a witchcraft to do anything. He's not going to survive. Why? They're much bigger people. They're much more people. They're much stronger. They're much more trained. You want to win the war, you need Hashem. Now you can't say Shema Yisrael in the middle of a shooting battle. But your chavruta can. Why? Over there, back home, in the camp, in the comfort, in front of the Sefer Torah. He's praying for you. He's learning Torah for you. He's empowering you. Half the money goes to the soldier, half the money goes to the avrich. What's left? You bring it to the avrichim, you give it to the Levi. ויקח משה מחצית בני ישראל את האחוז אחד מן 50 מן האדם מן הבהמה וייתן אותם ללוויים שומרי משמרת משכן אדוני כאשר ציווה אדוני את משה. Chapter 31, verse number 47. Moshe took from half of the children of Israel, the one drawn from the 50, from the people and the animals, and gave them to the Levites, the guardians of the charge of Hashem's tabernacle, as Hashem has commanded Moshe. And the Rambam writes, a Levi is not just someone that was born to the family of Levi. A Levi is someone that has committed himself to learning Torah as his vocation. That's all he does. He's serving Hashem. So we see, Rabotai, that in the beginning of the parasha, Kadosh Baruch Hu tells us to be very careful with any promises, with any words that come out of our mouth. Needless to say, not to make vows. But even when you say, I promise to donate, I promise to pay back, I promise, you don't understand. The significance of those words may not mean much to you, but you are part of Yaakov, and therefore those words actually create something. And if you do not fulfill that promise, that something turns into an enemy, into a destroyer. Now, when you do what you say, and you use that mouth to say the truth, when you actually use the blessing that Hashem gave you to invest more into the world of Torah, more into Kiruv, to help Am Yisrael do tshuva, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you more. And guess what? Then you'll be able to fight the war and win. And at the end of that war, don't forget what brought you the blessing. Give more to the Leviim. Why? They are the ones that empowered you to begin with. You won the war, you made the investment, and it worked out. The business succeeded, the case was won, the patient survived, whatever it was. Don't forget about the cause of the blessing once you succeed. And this, Rabotai Karim, is Parashat Matot that is as relevant today as it was when it was written 974 generations before the world was created. As the Gemara in Masechet Chagigah says, if we all just simply took not just the words of Hashem seriously, but even the words that come out of our mouth seriously, it certainly would change our lives, would improve them, because that would mean that everything that comes out of our mouth, that is what we'll do. And BeEzrat HaShem, we will succeed. With that being said, you guys can ask some questions, and BeEzrat HaShem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us the answers. The violence is in the Torah. If you have a problem with the violence that's in the Torah, then you have a problem with God. He wrote the Torah, not me. I'm just reading it to you. You could buy yourself a Torah and read it yourself if you'd like. Rabbi, how to deal with former Orthodox Jew openly apostatizes on YouTube. How to deal with them? Run away from them. Don't listen to them. Don't watch their videos. Don't show any encouragement, any support. And even if you say, no, I don't support him, but I still want to see what he says. No, every time you watch their videos, you're in essence helping them indirectly because there's more views and therefore YouTube would decide to recommend it to more people. So if there's a heretic out there, stay away from them. Don't watch any of their videos. The only time we ever look at something is if it's absolute need because we need to know something, for example, to warn people about. You're not in that role, and therefore you should not watch. If somebody's a heretic, do not watch their videos, do not support them, do not attend their lectures. In so many words, run away from them. That's the way to deal with it. In this week's parasha, does a man's vow become binding as soon as he is bar mitzvah age? Yes. As soon as a Jew is bar mitzvah, that means he's considered a man. Rabbi, what exactly is an abomination? How are they created? What do they do in the world? Do they have specific rules like mamzels? An abomination is toiva. Toiva is considered disgusting in the eyes of Hashem, meaning it's literally the opposite of the purpose. So the Torah calls several different things in the Torah an abomination. The rainbow people are considered an abomination, a toiva. People that marry animals also considered a toiva. And these are people that are literally doing the opposite of what their purpose is. And they're considered disgusting in the eyes of Hashem, and they'll be punished severely. When are you going to do live shiurim again at some location? To do a live shiur is not something that I'm against, but it has to be worth it. And so a bunch of people have invited me, over the years and even recently, whether it's to New York or to Los Angeles or even to other countries. But unfortunately, none of them were willing to arrange the necessary amount of people that they could guarantee that would come. If I'm going to fly somewhere, I'm going to fly to LA or fly to New York or Panama or wherever it is that people want me to go to. You have to invest into the event to make sure there's going to be at least a few hundred people that show up. I'm not going to leave my family, leave my role, leave everything that I need to do every single day, 20 hours a day that I'm working, Baruch Hashem, and travel to some different state just in order to talk to 10, 15 people, or even 50 people. Because if it's just going to be a small crowd, then I could just simply do online shiurim and get even more than that. So if somebody's willing to invest into arranging an event that they're going to bring a lot of people, then by all means, I'm more than happy to go. But to just go to a place to go see 10 or 20 people, it's just unfortunately it's too much for me to do without enough extra benefit. I love everybody. I want to help people, but the reality is I could help you just as much by giving a lecture from my room here with all my books and Baruch Hashem, all the different tools that we have, just as I can live. And I understand that live lecture is a world of difference, from an online lecture, and I agree with that. But it has to be worth it. So people, want me to come to different places, but they have to arrange the people. So when someone is willing to arrange it, I'm more than happy to come. Arranging it is not simple, but it's also not impossible. You know, you just like people have parties, they have birthday parties, they have Hanukkah parties, they have other events. They could get a few hundred people together to these things. Sometimes it requires money, sometimes it requires a lot of phone calls, messages, flyers, a million different things. If somebody's willing to do that, they're more than happy to go, wherever they want me to go. But most people are not willing to do it, or not able to do it, or both. So, for now, this is what it's going to be. In regards to doing, events in locally, I don't have, I don't have my building yet. So when HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides to send us the building or the funds or both, then BeEzrat HaShem we will have, regular lectures over there. But until then, it's a, I don't see that happening, at least not on a regular basis. We've had some events where we rented out a hall, some type of place, and had an event, and those were very nice, but they were very, very expensive for the amount of people that came. So, let's say 100 people, 100 so people came to the event, but it cost me $15,000, $20,000, sometimes more. It's expensive to do that. As much as it's nice to see people, especially people that are traveling from different parts of the country that really want to see me live, it's just too expensive to do that on a regular basis. And that's why that had to stop also. But like I said, anyone that wants to arrange an event and they can guarantee that a certain amount of people are going to come and they're going to invest into the event, to market it, and to do everything, I'm more than happy to come. Until then, BeEzrat HaShem, we will do these lectures. Can you do private lesson? No, I'm sorry, I don't do private lessons. What is the proper way to visit the grave of an ancestor? Touch the grave, stay distant away, ask them to bring your prayers on your behalf, or pray only to Hashem. Well, first off, always only pray to Hashem. Second off, it depends who the ancestor is. If the ancestor was a big tzaddik, then you pray to Hashem that he will consider the merits of the tzaddik to your favor, as a result of you honoring the tzaddik by visiting his grave. But if the ancestor is not a tzaddik, you could visit the grave if you want. If you want to honor them, you want to bring a candle or something. But certainly always pray to Hashem. Certainly always pray to Hashem. Hi, can a goy pray for a Jew, especially someone sick? Absolutely, yes. Hi, can I talk with you? Yeah, speak. Go ahead. You have comments over here. Just comments, or could you answer my request? Not really understanding what your request is. Send a message, and we'll go from there. I can't promise that I'm going to do what you say without knowing what you're going to say. Oh, to invite you to live? No, absolutely not. I don't invite people live. Especially people I don't know. For a non-Jew to find a wife that isn't Christian or atheist, it seems difficult to find someone without being willing to travel and move. Any suggestion? Become willing to travel and move. Rabbi, can you share a sgula or anything, a mitzvah needed besides money for Kiruv that one can do to urgently save one's life or buy time to relocate to a safe place? The ultimate sgula, the ultimate mitzvah that a person can do is Kiruv. So you don't necessarily always need money to do Kiruv. Or at least you don't need necessarily a lot of money. Number one, there is a way that a person could arrange a lecture, get a few hundred people together, and that doesn't cost a lot of money. If a person already has a phone, has a contacts, has a community, has a rabbi that is gonna help them arrange the event, doesn't usually cost money. If that's too much for a person to do, they could go to kiruvstore.org. That's our store. Order a bunch of books and USBs and poster cards and distribute them in their community as often and as much as possible every day. 10 minutes, 20 minutes a day, an hour a day, 2 hours a day. We have people that do Kiruv in different ways. Some people literally make a week out of it. Some people make an hour out of it. Some people make a trip out of it. I actually have some people, just now I had someone send me pictures. A person just started a company. They do some type of, I think, construction of some kind or electrical work. And he wanted to put the Tikkun Abrit magnet on his car, on his trucks. And he got a bunch of them. And he put them on his trucks. And now every time his workers go to a job, to fix something, to build something, he's also advertising the Tikkun Abrit. That's also a way to do Kiruv. Actually, just the other day, I was out with my dear family, and on the way back, at the traffic light, some pickup truck pulls up next to me and starts saying, "Yeah, amazing, good job, yeah, this is great." Now the guy is clearly an American, white guy. He's not, he doesn't look remotely Jewish. He looks like an American, nice guy. And he's saying, "Yeah, amazing, amazing." And so I lower the window. I say, "He goes, that movie, amazing, good job, good job." Because I have the magnet on my car also. So what are the chances that somebody that comes from a different background, different religion, different part of the world is going to watch the movie? You never know. You never know. So you put it there, you give people an opportunity, and you help them. So you could do Kiruv for free. You could distribute books and USBs and different things for free. It's not free for us. It costs us literally millions of dollars. But if a person doesn't have money, they could still use their time, their ability. We also have volunteers, people that have abilities to graphics, or different technological knowledge, that they want to volunteer and be part of our team to produce content, to fix things, to build things. If they could be reliable, they could be added to our team. And as volunteers, some of the most valuable people that we've ever had in the organization for the last 10 years have been volunteers. Some volunteers have turned into employees, and some volunteers literally just stayed volunteers and still are volunteers. And they don't even want the money for it. And literally, sometimes some of the volunteers work more than employees that get a salary. So the volunteer, in my opinion, volunteers are the best, because they literally are 100% passionate about what we do. So if you have the ability to volunteer for our organization, that's an extraordinary way to do Kiruv. So just here you see already a few examples of ways that you can bring an enormous amount of blessing into your life without money. Another way that you could bring a lot of blessing to your life as far as doing Kiruv is by getting other people to donate. So you may not have a lot of money to donate, but I'm sure you know some people, not even necessarily rich people. It could just be the average person. He has a job, makes $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 a year here in America, which is pretty normal. And he donates anyway. Just tell him to donate to BeEzrat HaShem. And guess what? Gadola me'aseh min oseh. Chazal teaches us, if you enable another person to donate you'll get even a bigger reward for his donation that he donated due to you than what you'd get even for your own donation. So, Gedola Ma'aseh say, greater is the one that enables another than the one that actually does. So, you could certainly do a lot of things without having, to invest a lot of money, assuming you don't have it. If you have it but you don't want to, then that's usually a problem you have to fix first. Right. Let me see. Rabbi, does Judaism allow abortion? Not elective abortion, only abortion that is a issue of pikuach nefesh, where there's a life risk, where it's either the mother is going to die or the baby is going to die. Then you're allowed to terminate the pregnancy there, because the mother comes first. But as far as if somebody just doesn't want the baby because of all types of nonsensical reason that people have, or because they were promiscuous, then that's more of a problem. There are certain exceptions to the rule during the early days, but I'm not really going to talk about those exceptions, and because certain people that are not with enough Yirat Shamayim and knowledge of Torah will misinterpret them into some type of permission to do whatever they want. So for that, if they have a situation, they can contact us privately. Why do Christians deny Rebecca's real age? I don't know why Christians do anything that they do. You have to ask them. Why do they deny God? Why do they split him into three? Why do they think that they know more than the Jews about the Jewish Torah? You have to ask them these questions. I want to speak to you because you ignore my questions. I've just answered a bunch of questions people are asking, and I'm not ignoring anybody's questions. I'm not really sure why you think I'm ignoring you. I have, Baruch Hashem, lots of questions coming from 4 different screens. Ask the question instead of making silly comments. Rabbi, is it true that a rabbi defeated God in a one-on-one debate? No. Rabbi from Austria, I have a question about your tzitzit. Why do you keep telling me about the question that you have? Just ask the question. I don't have time to wait for just for your question. I have a bunch of questions. I don't understand people. What is your interpretation of the age of Rivka? Christians claim she was 18. I don't have an interpretation, but Chazal teaches us in the Gemara, in the Midrash, that some say she was only 3, some say she was 9, but she certainly was younger than 18. But as I've said in previous lectures, that does not mean what people think, meaning it wasn't an infant that was, or a toddler, 3 years old, that still has a baby bottle and and needs to be told stories to go to sleep. It was a woman that was young in age as far as years, but certainly as far as the build was like a mature adult. How do we know that? Because as soon as Eliezer came, she came to Eliezer. She told him, I'm going to give you drinks, and I'm also going to give all your camels. Now Eliezer came with 10 camels. Now you can look up online, how much does a camel drink? And you're going to be astonished at how much camels drink, which means that if she brought enough water from the well for each one of the camels to drink to satiation, it's literally needs not just an adult, you need a team of adults to do that. So not only was she not what people think, like a 3-year-old that still has a diaper, but she was literally a very, very powerful human being. And so a person has to understand that the Torah is not to be interpreted with your common sense. That's why we look into the oral Torah, where the sages explain to us each and every single thing. In fact, the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin talks about different people that were young when they got married, as far as or young when they're mentioned in the Torah, that you'd be surprised. For example, the mother of Mashiach, the wife of David HaMelech, Elisheva, she was the mother of Shlomo. Bathsheba was the mother of Shlomo, and she was 7 or 8 years old when she got married to David HaMelech. That's what the Gemara says, and it proves it from the verses. Now again, a person today thinking 7, 8 years old, they're thinking pedophilia, they're thinking a little kid that just a few years ago was in diapers, they're thinking a person in 3rd grade, they're thinking a person that needs to sleep with the light on because they're scared of the dark. That's what a person is thinking about. But that's not the way things were. Not only because the times were different and people, even your great-grandparents, married much younger than people married today. I know my grandparents married when they were 12 years old. And I'm sure that people that are at my age, and they also, their grandparents got married much younger. But the point is that aside from the times changing, the culture changing, society changing drastically over the last 100 years to completely distort history on its face, the human body developed differently back then as it does now. The Gemara tells us that the average person was able to see 10 miles with their naked eyes, just with their eyes, 10 miles. Today, even a person with the best vision, that they call 20/20 vision, cannot see even 1 mile. Cannot even see 1 mile away. But in those days, they were able to see much further. In those days, they were much stronger. So the body itself has changed drastically, not because of evolution like these scientists theorize, but rather because HaKadosh Baruch Hu changed. We know that in the beginning of the Torah, there was giants. There were people that literally were absolutely enormous. The scientific world, that does not believe in the Torah, has a hard time believing such a thing. They have no problem believing in giant lizards, but they have a problem believing in giant people. The Torah tells us that the whole world was destroyed from from God with the flood. The scientific world has a hard time believing that. Why? Because to them, it's like, it had to be a meteor, and it had to be this, and it had to be that. No. God simply made a Mabul, and it destroyed the world. So scientific world has hard time believing a lot of different things. And the Torah tells us that there were still giants at the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. Og and Sichon were both giants. And there were several other giants mentioned in the Torah. So the Torah is full of things that contradict our so-called reality. Whether it be giants, whether it be Moshe Rabbeinu not be considered a giant, but still being 15 to 20 feet tall, depending on how you interpret Amah, whether it's 1.5 feet or 2 feet, based on the Chazon Ish or other poskim. But Moshe Rabbeinu was not considered a giant. But he was a Levi, and therefore he was 15 to 20 feet tall, which is 10 amot. So to a person today, say, what, 15? Moshe Rabbeinu was 20 feet tall, that's a giant. To you, it's a giant. In those days, it wasn't. Why? Because the entire Levi tribe were all 10 amot tall, because they had to carry the Aron HaKodesh. In order for the Aron HaKodesh not to hit the floor, because of the way that the Aron HaKodesh, as the Gemara mentions, the way the Aron HaKodesh was designed, in order for them to be able to carry the Aron HaKodesh on their shoulders without it hitting the floor, they had to be 10 amot tall, which is, again, like I said, 15 to 20 feet tall. So when you say that in society today, people have a hard time with it, and including if you say it in a Christian church, that the Leviim were 20 feet tall. Come on, no. That's crazy. You tell them that Moshe Rabbeinu flew in the air. Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen flew in the air. They're going to have a hard time believing it. Why? Because just like the scientific world is using false doctrine that they make up themselves, the Church of Christianity also uses a false doctrine that they made themselves. They call it the New Testament. So if you want the truth, it has to be truth from beginning to end, because 99% truth and 1% lie equals 100% lie. So the Torah is 100% emet. The written Torah and the oral Torah. In order to understand the written Torah, you have to have the oral Torah. In order for you to have the truth, you have to have all of that. When you start throwing in all types of other nonsense into the mix, whether it's the Quran or it's the theory of survival of the fittest, the Darwins, the Christians, you're in essence throwing a bunch of lies into the mix. You're bound to get confused. You're bound to get the false information. You're bound to simply worship the wrong God, and in so many words, go in the wrong direction. So if you want the truth has one address, not two addresses, not a one main address with a side complex. No, one address. It's called the Torah of Am Yisrael. Orthodox Judaism has the Torah. The people that call themselves Reform or Messianic or Conservative or Jews for Jesus or all types of other nonsensical names that people come up with, those are not Judaism. They're not related to Judaism. They're simply people that have added their own versions, their own lies, their own manipulations, no different than the church, no different than atheism, no different than Islam. They added their own lies, and that's why they keep running into a wall when they hear different historical facts from the Torah. And the way that they try to make sense out of things and say, no, she really wasn't 3. They're just saying she was holy, but really she was 18. Why? How did you come up with 18? How did you come up with 18? Oh, well, it makes sense because my daughter is 18 and she's ready to get married. Oh, so your daughter is in the Torah? No, but because it makes sense. So that's the problem. Once you start making sense out of things from your own logic, it's no longer the Torah. So you want the Torah? Torah is available. You want lies? Lies are also available elsewhere though. Here we have the Torah, Baruch Hashem. Isn't that address Hashem? Well, the Zohar Kadosh says that Hashem and His Torah and Am Yisrael are one, meaning that the Torah is what Hashem said. The Torah is the word of Hashem. What can I do to get the merit to be able to convert easily? I'm so excited to convert, but I see no way to be able to do it in my current position. I've never heard of an easy conversion. Conversion is supposed to be difficult. You want to join the chosen people, the people that have risked their lives in order to remain Jewish for the last 3,335 years. Then you obviously have to pay the dues. And it's not pay the dues meaning money. You have to pay the dues meaning make the sacrifice so Hashem can choose you to be one of those special people. Yemenite Jews are descendants of ancient Israelites from the first temple period. Does that make them different from normal Jews from the second exile? Jews that came from Mount Sinai, whether they had customs that started at Mount Sinai or thereafter, they're all Jewish. Rabbi, what do you think about reincarnation? I think that I did several lectures about it. That's what I think. If you want to hear them, you could watch them. How to choose a synagogue that's best suited for family with children. It depends what's available to you. You know, it's not necessarily about how to choose a synagogue. It's how to choose a community. Choose a community, you have to make sure that first and foremost, it's a community that has Torah, Torah learning, Torah teaching, and not just a place to pray where people go pray there, but nothing else. So the synagogue should be a place that people also learn Torah, that there's shiurim Torah, and it's a place that there's constant action, there's constant Torah there. And of course, once in a while, they have little parties for the community, different events that are kosher events, that's not a problem. But if the events are the priority and the Torah is once in a while, that's not the ideal place to go to. You want to go to a place that has a lot of Torah there, both for adults and children. Once you find a place like that, it becomes becomes easier to raise a Torah family. Erev Tov, I'm a Karaite. What do you think? I think Refuah Shlema. May Hashem wake you up, open up your eyes, fix your vision and your brain, and BeEzrat HaShem, you survive. What's my opinion of the verse in Genesis? What difference does my opinion make? God wrote the Torah. He didn't ask me for my opinion of what I think. Oh, Yaron, what do you think I should write over here? You think it's a good idea to write here? God didn't ask me what my opinion is, what I think. He said something, I'm doing it. That's it. My opinion is zero. If you think your opinion means anything more than zero, you have a mistake. Ark means box. It doesn't mean boat. Well, the Torah was not written in your English language. It was written in Sfat HaKodesh. What's the deal with the Yemenite weddings with the golden hats? That's different. Jews have different customs. Some have a custom to wear hats, some have a custom to wear specific garments, some have a custom specific music, specific food. Different customs. Jews were, when we were sent to the exile, after the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, then the Jews went to different parts of the world. Some Jews went to Poland, some Jews went to Russia, some Jews went to Yemen, Syria, Iran, Egypt, Morocco, Libya. There's countless places that the Jews were, and in those different places, they developed customs. Sometimes the customs were for the sake of preservation, like the Ashkenazi custom of not eating kitniot came from the fact that they had to save money because they were only they had to reuse the sacks for wheat and for rice. So that's a custom that became halacha. but it's something that they did as a result of the times and the place they lived in. This was not a problem in the Middle East, where the Sephardi Jews lived, and therefore Sephardi Jews, for the most part, eat kitniot. We don't have a problem with eating kitniot. Moroccan Jews don't eat rice, but that's a different custom. It's similar to the Ashkenazim, but not exactly. I mean, they don't eat rice, but it's not necessarily for the same exact reason. But the point is that different Jews lived in different places. There were Jewish communities in China. In fact, there was a Jewish community in China of nearly 5,000 people at one point. When World War II happened, one of the Yeshivat Ponovich escaped Europe and fled to Shanghai. And they didn't think there was going to be any Jews over there, but they ended up finding an entire Bet Midrash shul that was built and really souped up, beautiful, where they were able to continue their yeshiva. And they found out that some rich Jew that lived in the area at some point built this place, hoping there's going to be a Jewish community there one day. There wasn't. But this was obviously Hashem preparing the medicine before the ailment. So there was Jewish communities in India. Until this day, there's some Jews everywhere. There's Jews that contact me that live in Pakistan, in different parts of Africa, in Japan, in Australia, India. There's plenty of Jews over there. So there's Jews everywhere, and each one of them have different customs that are not just the Sephardi Ashkenazi customs that are well known, but sometimes there are specific customs that are particular to the place. And there's no problem as long as those customs do not violate the Torah. There's no problem. It's perfectly, we love customs. Well, the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael described in Eretz Yisrael today stay the same when Mashiach comes, or will the size of the land expand? The boundaries of Israel will be like they are in the Torah, which is drastically bigger than what it is today, plus the land would stretch like the skin of a deer. When you kill a deer, and after they skin them, the skin shrinks. But in reality, anyone that's familiar with the job knows that you could stretch the deer skin, an enormous amount. And the sages compare the land of Israel after the time of Mashiach to be like the skin of a deer that will stretch drastically more to fit a lot more than what it can fit today. Is it okay for a non-Jew to give Kiruv packages in Orthodox synagogues? Yes, absolutely. We have plenty of non-Jews that make Kiruv one of their weekly, if not daily, things that they do. Some volunteer on our team, help us publish shiurim, videos, posters, all types of skills, coding, different technological stuff. Some of them are distributors of the material on a regular basis. Literally, they go from one synagogue to another, one shopping center to another, one Jewish community to another. Some of them do it literally every week. Some of them do it every month. Some of them do it every few months. But we have plenty of non-Jews that love the Torah, that want more Torah in the world, want more of Am Yisrael to do tshuva, and therefore they distribute the material, and they see a lot of blessing in their life. There's a lot of tests, but there's a lot of blessings. There's a lot of blessings that it brings to a person's life, whether they're Jewish or not Jewish. Doing Kiruv is literally the one-way guarantee to having more blessings in your life. Okay, let's see. What's the question? You guys said that you asked a question, but all I see is Palestinian flags. More of this terrorist flag. Let's see. Do Muslims and Jews worship the same God? According to the Rambam, they do worship the same God, but unfortunately, the way that the Muslims worship their God is against the Torah, because their Quran tells them that the Jews are the enemies, and at the end of days, they're going to have to destroy the Jews, and even the rock and the tree is going to help them destroy the Jews. So there's a lot of problems with their understanding, and that's why when Muhammad came to the Jewish sages to try to convince them to follow him and follow his Quran, and they rejected him, he massacred all of them. He killed all of them. So Muhammad was not a very big fan of the Jews, let's just say it that way, and neither is the Quran. The Quran is anti-Semitic. But as far as the God that's mentioned in the Torah and the God that's mentioned in the Quran are generally one and the same. It's just that the manipulation by the Muhammad and his followers of what they think God said has caused endless amount of blood to be shed. Now there are certain Torah scholars that believe it's a different God, because they believe that there's a form of idolatry in Islam, but that's not the common opinion. The common opinion is that it's the same God. But it's remember that the Islam was, the predecessors to Islam was idolatry. It wasn't exact. It wasn't Islam at Mount Sinai. Moshe Rabbeinu was not Muslim. Islam only started 1400 years ago, which is 2,000 years after we got the Torah. Do we worship the same as the Muslims? No, like I just explained. The way that the Muslims worship their God is polar opposites to the way that the Jews worship the God. The Torah promotes peace. The Torah promotes life, and unfortunately, that's not necessarily what's promoted by the Quran. You could see that for yourself from society. Now, as far as you compare that to Christianity, no, according to the Torah, as well as according to the scholars of Islam, not that we count them, but needless to say, there's one agreement between the Muslims and the Jews, is that the New Testament or the Christianity is idolatry. The problem, though, and the reason why the Muslim opinion is confusing, or hypocritical, is that while the Islam says that Christianity is idolatry, they still praise Jesus, which is the hero of the New Testament. They still mention him in positive ways in the Quran. So on one hand, they say Christianity is idol worship. On another hand, they say that Jesus was a good guy. So it doesn't make any sense. Now, I understand that The Quran says that he was just a guy. He wasn't, he wasn't what the Christians say. But the only place that mentions Jesus in a favorable way is the New Testament, which means that the Quran got their information of Jesus from the New Testament. So you can't just go to the New Testament people and tell them, "No, we know more about the New Testament than you do, and therefore we're going to interpret that your Jesus guy was a good guy, and he was not a part of God that they say, the idolatry." So it's the problem with lies of Christianity and lies of Islam, is that when you actually investigate and put them up to the test, you see that none of them make sense. Christianity doesn't make sense. Islam doesn't make sense. And just like the Khuzari king said to Rabbi Yehuda Levi, that there's only one truth, which is the Torah. And the easiest way to start the journey of investigating the Torah and comparing it to the Quran and New Testament is by simply understanding, first and foremost, that the Torah preceded came before the New Testament by 1,500 years and the Quran by 2,000 years. And both the New Testament and the Quran say that the Torah is true. And both the New Testament and the Quran say that the Torah, they need the oral Torah, even though they despise the oral Torah. Why? Because you need the oral Torah in order to understand how to read the written Torah. But needless to say, anyone that has some brain cells left will understand that if both the Quran and the New Testament say that the Torah is true, then that means that statistically speaking, even the scholars of the Quran and the New Testament would agree to the fact that the Torah can be true while they are false, while both the Quran and the New Testament are false. But it's never going to be possible for the Torah to be false and anything else be true. So when you actually investigate the Torah, you'll see that it's very, very easy to see the truth there. And in fact, from the Torah, it's very easy to understand how much falsehood is in the New Testament and the Quran. So yes, there is similarities, but all the similarities are not similarities because of similar cultures or similar prophets, but rather because both the New Testament and the Quran plagiarized different information from the Torah and claimed ownership to it. So anything that's true in the Quran or the New Testament, they simply plagiarized and copied from the Torah. Anything that's false is theirs. They made it themselves, because you're not going to find anything false in the Torah. Not because I'm saying it, because you could literally check every fact in the Torah. The Quran is complete. We don't take anything from other religions. You don't even know your own Quran. Literally, you're making an embarrassment to your own people by making such a statement. You should be ashamed of yourself. I actually think that if you go to your imam and tell him this statement, he'll slap you in the face, because you are making a mockery of your own people by making such a foolish statement. Did you actually ever read the Quran from beginning to end? Did you know that your Quran says that if there's any mistakes or you don't know what the truth is, go to the people of the book, go to the Jewish people, because they have the Torah? Do you know that says in your Quran? You don't know that because you never read your Quran. So you're just one of those, apes that just decides to follow without actually investigating. You are an embarrassment to your own people. How can I contact you or get in touch? You could send messages. I don't answer phone calls or have meetings. You could send messages either via email, or you can send a text message or WhatsApp message. Usually WhatsApp messages are the best, but phone calls and meetings are Not possible. How can I learn more about the Rambam? Well, there's literally endless amount of books about the Rambam, if you want to learn about his life. There's even a children's film that's very educational that's on YouTube for free. You could just type the word Rambam. And there's many, many books, and there's also the books of the Rambam. Which Samson beat Goliath one-on-one. Of course, Samson, Shimshon, Gibor, he had the Shekhinah on him at all time. He killed tens of thousands of Plishtim by himself, including giant Plishtim. So Goliath was not the only giant, there was many others. And Goliath was one of the leaders of the Plishtim. One of the leaders of Plishtim. And Goliath was defeated by David HaMelech, which was not a giant. In fact, he was also beat up by Shaul HaMelech. After one of the wars that at the time of Eli Cohen, where his two sons were wicked, so Hashem punished Am Yisrael, where they lost the war to the Plishtim, and the Plishtim ended up stealing the Aron HaKodesh from the Jewish people, and that army was led by Goliath. And Goliath wanted to open the Aron HaKodesh and take the Luchot HaBrit, take the 10 Commandments out of it for himself. When Shaul, which was still a young man before he became king, heard that the Aron HaKodesh was stolen, he literally got superpowers, where he started, running towards the Plishtim camp by himself. And as soon as he saw Goliath hovering over the Aron HaKodesh, looking to take out the 10 Commandments, they opened the Aron HaKodesh. He was looking to take him out. He yelled at him, told him, take your hands off of, don't touch the 10 Commandments. And when Goliath turned around, the Midrash says that Shaul HaMelech jumped in the air, kicked Goliath with both of his feet in the air, grabbed Goliath fell. Shaul grabbed the two Luchot HaBrit and started running with them, and they were massive. The Midrash says that they were over 600 pounds. He grabbed both of them and started running superhuman speed. Obviously, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him superpowers in order to do this, and he ran all the way back to the Mishkan, to the to where Eli Cohen was. But Eli Cohen already died by then, because when he found out that the Aron HaKodesh was stolen, he fell from his chair. He was already in his 90s, fell from his chair and died. He broke his neck. But the point is that Goliath was the one that was leading that army already for a while. And he was not only, eventually killed by David, he was also beat up by Shaul. And Shimshon was a massive powerhouse, not because of his own physical power, but because of the Shekhinah being on him. So Shimshon, who was a prophet, and was someone that killed literally tens of thousands of Plishtim by himself. In one of his first battles, he killed over 3,000 Plishtim by himself. 3,000 by himself. In another battle, he killed 30,000 by himself. So, as strong as Goliath was, he wasn't stronger than 3,000, needless to say, 30,000 Plishtim. So Shimshon had superhuman strength that was all given to him by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, In one of the cases, he killed the Plishtim with the jaw of a donkey. So, the more you learn about the different parts of the Torah, not only do you have answers to your questions, but also you have answers to things you didn't realize you had questions about. Like, for example, where do these Hollywood producers get their ideas for superheroes or for different characters in their films? Whether it's Arthur that was plagiarized from Moshe Rabbeinu, or it was the Incredible Hulk that's plagiarized from Yehuda, or it's a lot of the other superheroes out there. All this, you'll have to know that the people that wrote these superhero stories were Jewish people that left the yeshiva and knew a lot of Torah and took parts of the Midrash and wrote them as their own stories and made money out of it. The guy that started the whole Marvel, he was a former yeshiva bachur. Went off the derech, obviously, but the point is that that's all these superhero stories come from the Torah. All these superhero stories come from the Torah. A lot of the stories. How is Arthur plagiarism of Moshe? There's a story that in the Midrash that Moshe Rabbeinu took out the staff out of the ground when it was stuck there for many years. When he came to the house of Yitro, they had the staff that Hashem gave initially to Adam HaRishon. That staff transferred from generation to generation. Noach had it also, and eventually the staff was stuck in the ground, and Yitro had it in his land, and he made a bounty or a reward for anyone that's able to take out the staff out of the ground would marry any one of his daughters that he wants. And Yitro was, in essence, at that point, he was considered the most elite, the most successful, the most holy, and so on, even though at that point he was an idol worshiper before he converted to Judaism. So when Moshe Rabbeinu came to Midian, initially Yitro arrested him and put him in jail for 10 years because he found out that Moshe Rabbeinu killed the Egyptian, and Yitro was a judge. And Yitro is Jethro. And he put him in jail for 10 years, and in essence, trying to kill him by not feeding him. But Yitro's daughter, Tzipora, who eventually becomes Moshe Rabbeinu's wife, she would bring Moshe food and water to keep him alive. And 10 years later, she told her father, "Why don't you see what happened to that Jewish prisoner?" He said, "No, he must have died. I haven't fed him." So let's see anyway. And when he saw that Moshe Rabbeinu was still alive and well, he realized that God is with him. So he told him, "Okay, fine, I'll let you out." He came out, and on the way, as he was following Yitro, they passed by where the staff was, stuck to the ground. And Moshe did not know anything about this bounty or anything else. He just saw the staff, and he saw that this is something that's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This was something different. And he just simply decided to grab the staff and take it out. And it came out of the ground easily. And when Yitro saw this, he knew for sure this is a man of God. Because the biggest warriors, and even groups of warriors in Midian and other countries, came to try to take this staff out of the ground and couldn't. So Moshe Rabbeinu was able to take it out with ease. Why? Because that's obviously Hashem gave it to him. As a side note, the Me'am Loez says that the staff was red stone, and I believe the calculation was that it was 667 pounds, according to scientific calculation of the Midrash, meaning the amount of stone, the size, and so on. They did a calculation that's approximately what it weighed. So 667 pound staff. Moshe Rabbeinu is 15 to 20 feet tall and very, very powerful, and he takes out the staff out of the ground like it's as if it's a little hair coming out of milk. Now, the Arthur and all these stories that they have, even to this day, different versions of it. that they have in movies where they take out some sword out of a rock or some type of stick out of the ground. All of that comes from that story from Moshe Rabbeinu. All of that comes from Moshe. That's the original story. That's where it comes from. So the more a person learns Torah, the more they see the Torah everywhere. And they also see how this is a world of lies, where people steal stories from the Torah and claim them to be their own. Okay, we'll take maybe one or two more questions. Why do the sages believe that the sun created the world in Targum Neofiti? No idea what you're talking about. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, no one else created the world. Read Surah Al-Maida, verse 5:3. I'm not Muslim. I'm not interested in your religion. I don't know if you noticed, but I have peot, I have a kippah, I'm teaching Torah. If you want to know different things that we discussed about the Quran and all the hypocrisy and the lies in it, I have lectures about that on my channel you can watch. But to join your foolishness is never happening. Oh, so now you think I'm not truthful? Okay, fine, so don't watch. No one is forcing you to be here. You don't see me go to your house and your lectures and your mosque and knocking on the door and say, oh, I want you guys to listen to me. I'm not forcing you to be here. Go listen to one of your leaders. Tell you about how much, how many virgins you're going to get after being a terrorist. The book of Daniel is Torah, right? Yes, there's different levels. The highest level is the 5 books of Moses. Then after the 5 books of Moses, you have the writings and the prophets. Among them includes Sefer Daniel. Now, we don't conclude laws from the writings of the prophets. We only conclude laws from the 5 books of Moses, because that was given from God directly to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Am Yisrael, whereas the writings and the prophets were not given in the same way. They were given through different level of prophecy. Now, that's in essence all considered the written Torah. The main written Torah is the 5 books of Moses. After that, you have the writings and the prophets, but that's a different level, much lower level, but still obviously very holy and very high. Then you have the oral Torah. The oral Torah is endless. The foundation of the oral Torah is the Mishnah, which is then discussed by the Gemara. Then you have the different Midrashim, the Zohar Kadosh, the Shulchan Aruch, all the Halacha books, responses, and so on. But as far as the written Torah is defined, the oral Torah is endless as far as the number of books, because even something that is one of the laws that's in a Torah is applied to the world today, it has to be interpreted. So for example, when it says no fire, it doesn't just mean on Shabbat, it doesn't just mean don't light fire and some wood fire. We don't really use that in the world today, in the cities of today. So it's not really relevant, but it also is interpreted as don't turn on and off the electricity, the microwave, and so on. So you may not consider the microwave fire, or you may not consider your light bulb fire, but according to halacha, the poskim consider it fire. Point being is that that psak halacha, that ruling by the modern day sages about 100 years ago or so, is considered a part of the oral Torah, and many other things that come out every day. There's Baruch Hashem, more and more clarity of the existing rules as they apply to today. There's no issuance of new rules. There's no issuance of new rules. All of the rules that we have today, all of the laws that we have today, are off of the original rules. It's the same exact thing, it's just applied to different circumstances of today. There's no new rules, no new laws. I want to know more about the Midrash. Me too. I want to know more about every part of the Torah. Rabbi, I want to take on one more mitzvah, but I don't know which one. Any suggestions on how to choose and which one? Yes, take on more Kiruv. Do more Kiruv. Help more people do tshuva. Or support Kiruv, meaning help more people donate to Kiruv. And okay, let's see. What is the message of the Torah? God gave the Torah with laws of how to live, how to serve Him, and how to receive the reward. Those that follow will be rewarded. Those that don't will be punished. What's our website? BeEzratHaShem.org. BeEzratHashem.org. Yes, over there you can donate. Over there you could sign up and become get the weekly newsletter and stuff like that. Where can I find more commentary on the Torah? I often have questions about verses. Well, there's different midrashim. If you want extensive commentary in a story format, the Me'am Loez is very good. Rav Kuli wrote it about 300 years ago, but he didn't write the commentary on the entire Chumash. He wrote it on Bereshit and Shmot, on Genesis and Exodus. The rest of it was written by other Chachamim, but it's all very good. It's just that there is a big difference between the first two and the rest, but it has a lot of commentary. You also have the Midrash Rabbah. It's also very good. You have the Ramban, Nachmanides. He has commentary on every verse practically. Later on, once you've done all of those, and much more even, you could maybe go into also Or Chaim HaKadosh. You could also go into the Chizkuni, the Malbim. There's endless commentary. Literally, there's a lot of commentary. There's the Midrash Tanchuma. But the first few that I mentioned to you are the best way to start. The first thing I started with was Me'am Loez. Can non-Jews benefit from praying at Chatzot Laila? Non-Jews can benefit from praying at any time if they pray to Hashem. But if you're asking about the Tikkun Chatzot, it has no relevance to non-Jews. Can the husband eliminate all the vows of his wife at once? I mean, usually the vows of a woman are not made all at once. Is a person obligated to fulfill their word when the person who asked for something has already broken the agreement? Depends. Depends what they committed to and what it would mean for them to break it. It's not a one size fits all. If an AI app offers an option for a degenerate chatbot that will cause people to waste seed, is it allowed to continue using the app? If the app has other uses that are not just that, then yes, you can. The app does not have a personality. You can use an app just like you use the internet and just like you use anything else. The internet can be used to do evil things. The internet can be used to do good things. Artificial intelligence can be used for good things. Artificial intelligence can be used for bad things. A gun can be used for good things or bad things. A knife can be used for good things and bad things. Okay, I think we've answered, Baruch Hashem. We've answered, I think, everything over here. Okay, Baruch Hashem. All right. Thank you very much for learning with me. Anyone that wants to support can go to the website, BeEzrat You could also watch the lectures on YouTube when it's posted tomorrow. You subscribe over there. You can become a supporter through YouTube. You could, you could do a lot of different things. But like I said earlier, everyone should take upon themselves to go to the Kiruv store, kiruvstore.org, order some books, USBs, different cards to distribute in your Jewish community, in the synagogues, in the kosher supermarkets, Judaica stores, yeshivot, all the different places where a lot of Jews gather. Distribute them there. You're doing yourself a big favor. You're doing yourself a big favor, especially if you do it on a regular basis, simply because it's doing the ultimate mitzvah for free. All it costs you is time. So if you could also help us and donate, that's great. But if you can't, you can still fulfill the ultimate mitzvah, the ultimate zgula that brings wealth, that brings blessings, that brings literally every amazing thing you could ever imagine to your life. So if somebody wants the ultimate blessings in their life, they should support Kiruv and make that their number one investment. Thank you very much for learning with me. BeEzrat HaShem, we'll learn again next week. Kol tu b'chava atzlacha.